Today, we're digging into a truly mind-blowing idea, a saint from the 4th century who described a universe that honestly looks a lot like the one modern cosmology talks about. So, how is that even possible? Let's get into it.
I know. This sounds completely impossible, right? Kind of like something you'd read in a sci-fi novel. But here's the thing. This claim is actually based on the real writings of a brilliant thinker from the early Christian church. And the evidence, well, it's pretty fascinating.
So, how did he pull this off? Well, not with a telescope, that's for sure. He did it with textual analysis. He basically treated the first few lines of the book of Genesis like this huge intellectual puzzle, trying to find an explanation that could satisfy both his faith and the science of his day. All right, so the whole mystery really kicks off with Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. For an educated person back in the 4th century, someone like Saint Gregory of Nyssa, the phrase that the earth was invisible and unformed was a huge philosophical problem. I mean, what does that even mean in a physical, literal sense? You've got to understand, for Gregory and guys like him, this wasn't about just blindly accepting a text. These were thinkers who were totally immersed in the Greek worldview, in their philosophy and science. So the real goal was to find a deeper meaning, to build a bridge between the Bible and a rational way of understanding the cosmos. So, what did he do? Well, Gregory wasn't just a theologian. He was a super meticulous scholar. And he tackled this problem almost like a modern academic would, using something called comparative textual analysis. To crack this thing open, Gregory started comparing different ancient Greek translations of the Hebrew scriptures, and he spotted something really interesting. See, one popular version said the earth was invisible and unformed, but another one, from a translator named Theologian, said the same line was empty space and nothing. And that little difference? That was the spark for a huge idea. By combining those two ideas, invisible and unformed, with empty space and nothing, Gregory landed on this absolutely revolutionary concept about the moment of creation, and it all centered on the idea of potential. He called it spermateke dynamis, which translates to seminal power. The idea is just so cool. In one single creative impulse from God, the entire universe was created all at once, but as a tiny seed. And this one seed held everything, all the rules, all the causes, all the power for everything that would ever exist. Okay, and the key to understanding this whole thing comes down to a classic idea from Aristotle, the difference between something's potential and its actuality. It's kind of like a blueprint for a house, right? The blueprint has all the info for the house, but it's not the house itself. In the same way, Gregory was saying the universe existed completely in potential. The blueprint was done, but it hadn't actually been built yet.
And Gregory himself put it in this perfectly paradoxical way. He wrote, "It was and it was not." I mean, how cool is that? It was there, in the form of this seed of potential, but it was not yet the physical, spread-out cosmos that we see all around us.
And this really lays out that paradox for you. On one side, you have the universe in its was state, this single seed of pure potential. And on the other, its was not state. It wasn't yet the physical reality we know and live in. It's a seriously mind-bending idea for any time, let alone the 4th century. Okay, but wait. If everything started as this one little seed of potential, then you have to ask, right? How did it become, well, all this? How did we get from a seed to the complex universe we see today?
See, this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Gregory's answer wasn't, a series of separate miracles. Instead, he argued that the universe unfolded and grew from that potential state into its actual state all on its own, through natural processes. Basically, according to a set of built-in rules.
And the way he described it sounds weirdly like a physicist talking. It all starts with a unified whole. Then, a natural movement, he called it kinesis, kicks in. This movement causes everything to start separating, with lighter stuff rising and heavier stuff falling, and eventually all the complex things in the universe begin to form. And this is the kicker. To describe this whole process, he used a specific Greek phrase, diastalantai apolelon, and it means the elements began distancing themselves from one another. I mean, come on, a 4th century monk describing a universe in expansion? That's just wow. So, naturally, this leads us to the big question. Are we really looking at an ancient Big Bang theory? How do these two ideas actually stack up against each other? So, to explain this separation, Gregory used this really cool analogy from the science of his day, a mix of mercury, water, and oil.
If you just leave it alone, it'll naturally separate based on what it's made of. Now look at that, and then look at a modern diagram of cosmic expansion. The core idea is weirdly similar. You start with a simple, dense state that expands, cools, and allows complex stuff to form over time, all according to natural laws.
Okay, so let's be super clear about something. We're not trying to say Gregory of Nyssa was secretly a quantum physicist who discovered the Big Bang. That would just be silly. But what is incredible, and this is the main point, is that he used his faith and the best science he had to build a model of the cosmos that was dynamic, that was evolutionary, and that unfolded through natural processes. So this is all fascinating ancient history, but why should we care today? What can we actually learn from Gregory's way of looking at the world? Well, for starters, it just blows up that simple story that science and religion have always been enemies. It shows ancient theology was seriously engaged with science. It also gives us a model that's the complete opposite of the whole God of the gaps argument. And finally, it just goes to show you that the idea of an evolving, dynamic creation isn't some modern invention. It has really deep roots. Yeah, and this quote from the scholar Dora Kustash just nails it. For Gregory, science wasn't a threat to faith. It was a tool. He believed science could actually help fill in the details of the bigger theological story of creation, explaining the how behind the what. And all of this leaves us with one last kind of tantalizing question. I mean, Gregory of Nyssa's incredible cosmic model was just sitting there, buried in ancient texts for centuries. It really makes you wonder, what other profound insights, what other ancient wisdom might still be out there, just waiting for us to rediscover?